The lady yields back and now recognize the gentleman from Indiana, Mr. Pence.
Thank you all for being here. You know, Donna, one of the things that you made a statement, and I'll go off what Dan said here. You know, I've noticed that carbon tax at 37 cents a gallon, it always goes into urban areas, right? You mentioned Chicago. I know that Cook County has a sales and motor fuel tax. It's higher than the counties around there, so it's more oppressive. Have you identified that?
Yes, we've seen the same thing. All of the taxes, especially in urban areas, are always higher, and they're regressive because the people that have the lowest income are paying the largest taxes.
Yeah, and then Dan, when and it was Washington that imposed 37 carbon tax,
Yes.
37 cents. So what happens to a location that's in Washington state but adjacent to another state?
Well, we've lived that life for a long time. Border states tend to play off of one another with taxes. And what we see, especially in sales tax and in highway use tax, is that the lesser tax state will get the majority of the business. Keep in mind, a truck can travel 1,400 miles between fill-ups, 1,400 miles. So he really only has to fill up once a day. He can choose Montana, he can choose Idaho, he can choose Washington. Believe me, with the 37-cent increase that I just had to put on my pumps, he's going to probably choose Idaho.
Yeah, so it's not a real solution to fighting environmental issues in my state or in my locality,
Absolutely
right?
agree with
So it's just a regressive tax, as Donna said. You know, you talked, Bob took a lot, you answered most of the questions you and I had talked about beforehand, but can you talk a little more about the investment, and now since you have experience in putting in charging stations and the cost and some of the more details, what will you do going forward in terms of delivering? I spent my career as a part of my career as National Director of Fuel for Circle K. So I delivered fuel where it needed to be, when it needed to be, whether it was haul it all the way from, as Rep. Curtis was saying, you know, for many, many miles. You can get liquid fuel somewhere. You can't get electricity anywhere it needs to be. So what are some of the additional costs that we don't think about for putting in charging stations, and how do you look at it as a business owner and property owner?
Well, we always look at return on investment. We make an investment, we hope we can get a return on that. If it doesn't pencil out, we can't do it. That's the plain and simple part of retail. What you're asking is a great question in terms of the cost. Now, we did have some subsidies from Nevada electrical companies when they put in the new transformers and upgraded the grids to accept our
How
need.
big, what percentage were those subsidies of your investment?
We invested $400,000, so that's $100,000 per unit. Not a great ROI, believe me on that right now today. I can take you down through the math, but it's not a very good ROI on that. We do not know that answer. We were told by the field workers that probably double the costs we're involved with was what the electrical company subsidized that location.
So you're saying it was $1.2 million?
In that general neighborhood would be my best guess, and that is just definitely a guess.
So going forward, how many charging stations are you going to put in?
Well, we haven't added any right now, but our franchisor, Pilot Flying J, has just done a deal with General Motors, as you've probably read in your newspapers, and they're going to start putting those in. But I have a sneaking hunch there's a huge subsidy behind all of that for someone else's dollars investing rather than
From
our
the federal government.
I would assume it's coming from the federal government. But I
Okay,
don't know
so,
that.
and when you said you had 3 or 4 a week, did you mean cars that charged, or per day, or?
I'm talking about per week, and we just track that in terms of they have to put a credit card in, or they have a prepaid card that they put in to actuate the machine. And they buy in increments of 15 minutes, so quarter hours. And if for some slim chance they go beyond their allotted 15 minutes, they're charged another rate, which is a little lower, all the while they have that thing plugged in, whether it's actually transferring energy into their vehicle or not. And so we just don't see very many.
All right, thank you. My time has expired. And again, thank you all for coming here.
Gentleman yields back. I now recognize